Hi, I'm Marc, and on this channel I talk about Brexit and UK politics. I recently read on was Political Home about claims Westminster could water down Northern Ireland Brexit checks in a bid to the DUP. And in this video I want to take a closer look at this. First of all, what they said. They said government in Westminster is considering further reducing checks on goods entering Northern Ireland from Great Britain as its negotiations with the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, over a return to power sharing installment ramp up. As you know, Northern Ireland has been without functioning political institutions since early 2022. The region's second largest party, the DUP, led by Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, is refusing to form a power-sharing government out of protest against post-Brexit arrangements for trade with Great Britain, as they say, which it argues undermine Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom. Donaldson and other DUP figures have been in talks with Downing Street and the Foreign Office for months about how the government can address their outstanding concerns about post-Brexit trading arrangements between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. After a summer of stalemate, in recent weeks the two sides say they have made significant progress, with a possible agreement believed to be imminent. "We are at the business end of things now," said one figure familiar with the talks, according to Political Home. The DUP has told the Westminster government that the green lane used by businesses in Great Britain to send goods to customers in Northern Ireland, created by Rishi Sunak's and Ursula von der Leyen's Windsor Framework Agreement with the European Union, currently entails too many checks and that it wants to see them reduced before they will agree to a return to power sharing installment. UK officials would currently be looking at further easement that could minimize the volume of checks taking place in those so-called green lanes, as Politics Home understands. The green lane was created by UK and EU negotiators to help goods get to Northern Ireland from Great Britain with minimal checks, while a more stringent red lane was set up for goods destined for the Republic of Ireland, which must comply with Brussels rules. At Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, Sunak told Donaldson that his proposal to establish an East-West Council to discuss and collaborate on the trading and many other opportunities presented by the Union had considerable merit, in the latest sign that ministers of the DUP are nearing an agreement that could pave the way to Stormont's restoration. Sunak also praised Donaldson for his speech to the DUP conference last weekend, saying he made a powerful case for a strong and functioning Northern Ireland within their union. The Prime Minister told Donaldson, "My right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Chris Heaton-Harris, has had the opportunity to discuss our shared commitment with the Union with his party over recent weeks and months, and I am grateful for the constructive approach and tone taken in those discussions." In a speech to the DUP conference last week, Donaldson criticized people who argue that Northern Ireland is better off being ruled by Westminster than having a functioning devolved government. "Time and again, Westminster has imposed laws upon us that are not in tune with the needs or wishes of the people of Northern Ireland," is what the DUP leader said there. "You cannot, on the one hand, repeatedly condemn successive governments for letting us down and then argue with credibility that we are better off ruled directly by those who do not really understand what makes this place tick," he said. As has been the case for many months, Donaldson faces a major challenge in reaching a deal with the government to return to Stormont without upsetting more hardline members of the DUP, including MPs Sammy Wilson and Ian Paisley Jr. One figure who has worked closely with the MP for Lagan Valley said his conference speech was further evidence that he is keen to return to Stormont. He's not hostile to devolution. That's what they told Politics Home. That was his voice and where he wants to be. Earlier this year, Sunak successfully removed large parts of the red tape facing movements across the Irish Sea when he agreed to the Windsor Framework with the EU. The DUP say they acknowledge that this treaty is an improvement on the Northern Ireland Protocol negotiated by former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, which it replaced. Well, it didn't, but that's what the DUP says. However, the party has spent many months warning that UK government must take further steps to guarantee Northern Ireland's place in the Union before it agrees to return to power sharing, which has been out of action since the DUP walked out of Stormont in February 2022. But seriously, what can really be done within this Windsor Framework? The Windsor Framework, this post-Brexit agreement between the UK and the EU for the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol, introduces a new system of so-called green lanes to facilitate the movement of goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. These green lanes aim to streamline the process for goods that are deemed to be at low risk of entering the EU single market. To utilize the green lanes, traders must be authorized under the UK internal market scheme and meet specific criteria. And the goods must be destined for sale or use in Northern Ireland. There must not be a risk of entering the EU single market, and they must be accompanied by the necessary documentation. Implementation of the green lanes involves several key steps, and one of them is the trader registration. Traders must register with the UK IMS to gain authorization for using green lanes. And there's a data provision. Traders provide data about the goods movement to their haulier, the TSS, the Trusted Trader Scheme, or the customs agent. And there is a risk assessment. Authorities have to conduct risk assessments based on the provided data to determine if the goods qualify for the green lane. And then there's the green lane entry. Eligible goods are directed to the green lane for expedited processing. And they are simplified customs procedures because goods moving through the green lane undergo simplified customs procedures, reducing administrative burdens in the end. And the green lanes offer several advantages for traders. The reduced administrative burden, faster movement of goods, lower costs associated with customs procedures, and the overall impact is lower. Because the green lanes aim to simplify trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, reducing friction and facilitating the movement of goods. And the system is expected to benefit businesses and consumers in both regions. The requirement for the green lanes under the Windsor Framework cannot be unilaterally reduced by either side, not the UK or the EU though. The agreement between the two parties stipulates that any changes to the green lane arrangements must be mutually agreed upon. The reason for this joint decision-making process is to ensure that both parties maintain control over the movement of goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland and in the end what happens in the EU market. Unilateral changes could potentially undermine the integrity of the EU single market or disrupt trade flows between the two regions. Therefore, any modifications to the green lane requirements would necessitate negotiations and a consensus between the UK and the EU. And this collaborative approach aims to safeguard the interests of both parties and maintain a smooth flow of goods across the Irish border. And as of today, October 19th, when I'm filming this, the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, which I always call Don't Understand Politics, has blocked the formation of a new Northern Ireland Assembly and Executive for a year, for more than a year. And the DUP has refused to nominate ministers to the Stormont Executive since May 5th and 22, and the Assembly election in which the Sinn Féin became the largest party for the first time. And the DUP's refusal to participate in power sharing is due to its opposition to the Northern Ireland Protocol, as they claim, which is the part of the Brexit deal that creates a customs border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. And the DUP argues that the protocol undermines Northern Ireland's place within the UK. The ongoing political deadlock has left Northern Ireland without a functioning devolved government for ages now. The lack of an executive has implications for various policy areas, including healthcare, education, and infrastructure. And with the blocking of the DUP, and May to October, that is 17 months now, that they are blocking this. And as I said, their primary reason they claim to have is their opposition to the Northern Ireland Protocol. Well, I have another feeling about being the second biggest party the first time could have played a role as well. But yes, they argue that the protocol undermines Northern Ireland's place within the UK and creates economic and political barriers between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. The political barriers is complete nonsense. They contend that the protocol has led to trade disruptions, increased costs for businesses, and a sense of separation from the rest of the UK. And the DUP has demanded that the UK government renegotiate the protocol or take unilateral action to suspend its operation. They say that they will not participate in a power-sharing government until their concerns about the protocol are addressed. The DUP stance has been criticized by a lot of political parties in Northern Ireland who argue that the DUP is holding the region hostage over its opposition to the protocol. They maintain that the DUP should engage in power sharing while continuing to negotiate changes to the protocol, which won't happen, by the way. The ongoing political deadlock has left Northern Ireland without a functioning devolved government, as I said, impacting various policy areas and creating uncertainty for businesses and citizens. Those consequences they cause with their political deadlock are several negative consequences for Northern Ireland. And these consequences span various aspects of governance, economic well-being, and even social cohesion. There is now a diminished devolved government. The absence of a functioning executive has left Northern Ireland without a fully empowered local government, hindering decision-making and, of course, policy implementation. And don't even talk about political instability. The ongoing stalemate creates uncertainty and instability in the political landscape, potentially discouraging investment and hindering long-term planning. And that will erode public trust, because the inability of political parties to reach an agreement could erode public trust in the political process even more than we already saw, and lead to disengagement from civic participation. And it will have economic consequences, because the lack of an executive delays crucial economic decisions, potentially affecting investment, infrastructure projects, and business growth. And the political deadlock creates so much uncertainty for businesses operating in Northern Ireland, potentially deterring investment and hindering economic growth. And we must not forget the public services. The absence of a functioning government will affect the delivery of public services, potentially impacting healthcare, education, and social welfare programs even. And that will have social consequences. The political impasse could exacerbate existing societal divisions and tensions between different communities in Northern Ireland. And all of this and this deadlock could hinder ongoing reconciliation efforts and hamper progress towards a more cohesive and inclusive society. And as I said already, the inability of political leaders to resolve the impasse could lead to more disillusionment and frustration among citizens, and with it further eroding the trust in the political progress. The DUP's decision to block the formation of a government in Northern Ireland has, with that, far-reaching negative consequences that do affect the region's political stability, the economic prospects, and the social cohesion. Resolving this deadlock is crucial for restoring effective governance, fostering economic growth, and promoting social harmony in Northern Ireland. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.